Yo guys, what's going on? My name is Ryan and welcome back to a brand new video on HUS3 News, and today we're back with another Let's Talk. It's the World Superbike Let's Talk for round number 6 at Donington Park. And well, what a weekend it was for many different reasons. I was there, I was trackside, and well, it was absolutely incredible really. So to start this Let's Talk off, we're going to go through wildcards because there is quite a few wildcards this weekend. We're going to start off with Leon Haslam, who is back. He was in Imola on the Puccetti Kawasaki with the anniversary, the 11th anniversary livery. He's back again on that same bike, but just normal green Givy kind of livery that they've got this weekend. And he will be once again partnering with Toprak Razgatlioglu. And hopefully Leon and Toprak could get some more good results. And well, we'll talk about them a little bit later on. Bradley Ray is also wildcarding on his build-based Suzuki, his British Superbike bike. Obviously, the BSB bikes have no electronics and they're a lot more of a basic bike compared to the World Superbike bikes. Luke Mossey is replacing Yoni Hernandez on the Pedicini Kawasaki because Hernandez had visa issues and couldn't even get in the country, so they had to phone Luke Mossey up last minute to get him involved in the action. Nicolo Canepa, he's also wildcarding as a third Pata Yamaha rider. He is a test rider for them and he got a chance to go out there and have the third Pata bike for this weekend. Mason Law will be wildcard, well, was wildcarding on the WD-40 British Superbike bike. Things didn't quite go to plan for him, and neither did for Gino Rea on the OMG Suzuki, and he's also on a BSB bike. So only Haslam, Mossey and Canepa are on the World Superbike bikes, and also obviously Bradley Ray, Mason Law, Gino on the BSB bikes. So looking to get in the mix and get involved. So let's go on to Friday. It was a wet FP1. It was a FP2 which was wet as well. And there was one single kind of dry session right at the end of the day, which was practice 3, meaning they only had one session to separate them into Q1 and Q2. Obviously, if you're new to World Superbikes, top 10 at the end of Friday going to Q2. And then from P11 down to last going to Q1, they fight for the top 2 spots in Q1. The top 2 going to Q2 to fight for pole. So it was, like I said, wet FP1 and FP2, dry FP3, and it was that one session to get them inside that top 10 to get straight into Q2. And unfortunately for the Aruba.IT Ducati rider Chaz Davies, he crashed at Redgate on I think it was about halfway in the session, and unfortunately he kind of hurt himself. He was kind of limping off. He limped straight away, which is always not a good sign because you have that adrenaline flowing. Normally, you know, you crash and you're a bit like, whoa, you get up, try and get back on the bike and see if the bike's alright to carry on. But he kind of got up and he was limping straight away. So obviously things weren't too good for Chaz. That kind of put him out of that session. Torres also had an issue. He was out of the session. He got a mechanical problem. He got black and orange flagged very early on in the session. I was stood actually on the main straight opposite the pits and the commentary boxes, and I saw the black and orange flag come out, so I ran up towards the final corner to where the marshal post was to have a look at it was. And it was Johnny Torres on the MV Augusto who had to then pit, and he missed all that session because he only had one bike obviously in the World Superbike class. Forres, he also got slapped down very hard onto the ground in the third session, and that was his session over as well. And it only left one of the Ducati guys to actually make it into the top 10, and that was Marco Melandri, who has had a pretty good record around Donington Park. But yeah, bit of a disaster really, and it's quite interesting to see that it's not only like one Ducati, it's all 3 of them. Both of the Aruba.IT bikes were very, very poor this weekend. They were struggling. And then also the independent bike of the Barney Racing Ducati of Xavier Forres. He was also really, really struggling with that bike and getting it around the circuit. Because Donington, you know, we have seen Ducatis at the front. We have seen them fight for, you know, the wins, the podiums and that. But unfortunately, they've never won. And they still haven't, because it was a really tough weekend for Chaz and Melandri, and also Forres and Rinaldi as well on the 4th of the Ducatis, the third Aruba.IT bike. He was down in second to last at the end of practice. So, and I mean, he was only there because, like I said, last was Torres, who didn't get to do a lap time. So yeah, not sure what went on with Ducati. Didn't work for them at all. Not just one bike, but all 4 bikes. Because, like I said, Rinaldi in there as well, the pumpkin, he could not make it work either. So the top 10 at the end of Friday and going directly into Q2 was the championship leader Jonathan Ray, the king of Donington Tom Sykes, the Aprilia, the Milwaukee Aprilia of Savadori. Hometown hero, literally from Derby, Alex Lowe's. Eugene Laverty on the second Aprilia. Magic Michael van der Mark. Haslam in, I think, the 7th. Baz in 8th. Bradley Ray on the BSB bike jumped inside the top 10 in 9th. And he's the second of the wildcards to make it through. And the first on the BSB bike. And then Marco Melandri rounding out the top 10. The guys who didn't make it, Luke Mossey just missing out. He was ahead of Top Rat Razgatlioglu. Leon Camia, who's back for this weekend. Obviously, tough time in Imola. Did a practice kind of race run, crashed, aggregated himself again, and unfortunately couldn't continue. He pulled out. Jason O'Halloran come in, broke his leg or his ankle, whatever he did in Imola. Nicolo Canepa, Leandro Mercado, Chaz Davis, who I mentioned, had his crash. The Triple M Honda of Jacobson, WD-40 of Mason Law, who was ahead of Jake Gagne. Well, that's obviously very good for Mason Law to be ahead of a Red Bull Honda. Obviously, Jake had never seen the circuit before, and he did have a tumble in FP1 in the wet. Roman Ramos was behind Jake, ahead of Gino Ria, Andre Jezek, Xavi Forez, Michael Rinaldi, and right at the bottom, Johnny Torres on the MV Agusta. So they were the guys going into Q1, and to get out of Q1 after the first 15-minute session was Chaz Davies and Toprak Razgatlioglu. Razgatlioglu led Chaz Davies. He was first and Chaz was second, and he managed to get himself inside that top 10. So it was obviously shootout for pole, and well, Mr. Super Pole, Tom Sykes, I believe that was his 14th pole at Donington, and he was on pole ahead of Jonathan Ray. Loris Baz, a very quick lap time from Loris Baz. He was quick in the dry, he was quick in the wet, and he put it on the front row ahead of Lorenzo Savadori and Alex Lowe's in 5th position, with his teammate Michael van der Mark rounding out the second row. Laverty started 7th, with Razgatlioglu in 8th and Chaz Davies in 9th. Bradley Ray rounding out the top 10, with Leon Haslam in 11th and Marco Melandri, who was last in that session, in 12th position. Leon Camia was in 13th, like we mentioned earlier on. He was in Q1 and he didn't make it into Q2. Torres was 14th, Rinaldi 15th, so a little bit of an improvement for Rinaldi. Well, all Ducatis really, because Chaz making it inside the top 10 and make it a little bit easier for him for the race later on Saturday. Michael Rinaldi in 15th, Mossy 16th, Jezek 17th, Leandro Mercado 18th, Jacobson 19th, Roman Ramos 20th, Gagne Forez, Gino Ria, Canepa and Mason Law, who crashed in Q1, rounding out the field in 25th position. So that was the grid for race number 1, and well, it got underway, and it was Tom Sykes and Jonathan Ray kind of battling at the front. Van der Mark was in 4th behind his teammate. He passed him at Foggy S's, and then it just kind of, for the front, it just kind of stayed quite stale, because there was about 7 or 8 bikes at one point all in the leading group, and then they kind of started splitting up. Alex started getting dropped a little bit, and then it was kind of Sykes and Ray having this proper big tussle, and then Michael van der Mark was just kind of sat there waiting before then pouncing a little bit later on. Johnny Torres, he was in 14th at the end of lap number 1 after his disaster of a Friday. I believe he started in 14th as well, so he didn't actually gain or lose any positions, but he was definitely on a charge, was Torres. He wanted to prove that he had the pace. Whilst that was happening, again, Ray, Sykes and Van der Mark, they were all fighting, making moves in the Melbourne Loop, running wide. There was a bit of contact as well at Coppice on the first lap between Sykes and Ray. Sykes said in the podium interviews that he nearly went for an early shower, so that was quite close between Tom Sykes and Jonathan Ray. Marco Melandri then unfortunately stepped off at Goddard's. Van der Mark took the lead, and Michael van der Mark basically won the race. And then right on the last lap as well, Leon Haslam up the inside of Toprak Razgatlioglu. They both went wide. Chaz tried to then cut up the inside. It's a little bit like the Jerez MotoGP race. Toprak kind of come back to try and square it off. Haslam was there. They made contact. Toprak fell off. Haslam kind of practically fell off, but managed to climb back on and get out of the corner. I think he was just behind Chaz after that situation. So Haslam managed to just about stay on, but poor Toprak, he got knocked off there by Leon Haslam. So Michael van der Mark got the win, his first win in World Superbikes, and the first Yamaha win since Marco Melandri led a Yamaha 1-2 at Portimao in 2011 with Eugene Laverty in second position. Jonathan Rea in Donington, he was second ahead of Tom Sykes, who made it another podium finish at Donington Park. And Alex Lowes was in fourth, which means obviously he started in pole position for race number 2, and he was ahead of both Aprilias of Savadori and Eugene Lavity, who made good progress in race number 1. Now then, race 2 got away. Alex Lowes on pole position. Like I said, he got beaten towards turn number 1 by Eugene Lavity and Lorenzo Savadori. Savadori led the race. Lavity then got beaten up going down Craners, and unfortunately it kind of looked like he had a technical problem because there was something wrong with the Aprilia on lap number 1, and he dropped right back, so leaving Savadori leading Alex Lowes. So Lowes then passed him basically, and a little bit later on in the race, Lavity retired, and I saw on social media he said he had a stuck open throttle which managed to close last minute, so he didn't actually have to jump off the bike. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened to Lavity. We all were speculating trackside that it may have been a tyre related issue, because he was looking down at the rear of the bike, but then he said on the social media it was a stuck open throttle. Xavi Forés, he also retired in race number 2. Not sure what happened to him. Alex Lowes then led lap number 2 till lap number 16 with a few passes and repasses kind of going on in between that. So I think Ray got him at Melbourne Loop. Lowes got him back on the exit, and it was some real great racing, all kind of race 1 and race 2, some real close racing. And like I said, a Yamaha in the mix as well. It's just a shame Ducatis weren't in there. We had a few Aprilias as well, with Savadori and Lavity getting involved in the early laps of race 1 and getting involved again in race 2. If Lavity hadn't had his issue, maybe he could have tried to stick in there. Leon Haslam, he was also running at the front. He was second position in race number 2 before then sliding off at the Melbourne Loop. He then also ran on the next lap at the Melbourne Loop, and I believe he crashed again and then retired. So yeah, not exactly how Leon wanted his Sunday to go. Alex Lowes, like I said, led lap 2 to lap 16, but then got passed by Jonathan Rea into the final corner, and then Michael van der Mark at the next lap at turn number 1. So 2 corners and 2 positions lost from Alex Lowes. Rea started trying to, break away, but he just didn't look like he had the tyre. He had a big moment earlier on in the race at McLean's, and then Michael van der Mark basically just got past him, and he started pulling away, pulling out that gap. And also, who were talking of gaps and closing and pulling away, Toprak was closing down the leading group massively. He was about 8 tenths a lap quicker. And, he caught Alex Lowes, passed him into the old hairpin. And then he caught and passed the championship leader on the factory Kawasaki, Jonathan Rea. He got ahead of him and pulled out the time. So Michael van der Mark won. Toprak was second for his first podium, and Jonathan Rea was in third position. And actually, talking of Kawasaki, it was the first time that Tom Sykes wasn't stood on the podium at Donington since he never stood on the podium in either of the 2 races in 2011. So 7 years ago, it was the last time Sykes wasn't on the podium at Donington Park. Obviously, since 2011, Sykes has scored 9 wins, 1 second and 3 third positions. So he is literally the king of Donington Park. He has had a very, very good record around Donington Park, and unfortunately race 2 it didn't work for him. So I'm not sure whether or not it was the whole reverse kind of mixed up grid that just kind of beat him up, because it was quite chaotic in the opening couple of laps, but he wasn't able to make progress in that race. He kind of went backwards. So yeah, not sure what happened to Tom Sykes during that race number 2, but unfortunately it wasn't to be for him. Now, going back to the wildcards, Bradley Ray and Luke Mossey was able to score points. Ray got 14th and 15th. Mossey got 14th in race 2, which was very, very good stuff. Obviously, Ray being on the BSB bike and Mossey on the actual World Superbike Pedicini Kawasaki. So then, after the 2 races at Donington Park, with Michael van der Mark getting his first and second win in World Superbike and Yamaha's first and second win since 2011, Jonathan Rea leads the championship by 64 points over Chaz Davies, and then Michael van der Mark slots into third position ahead of Tom Sykes. They both join on points, actually, on 163. Marco Melandri is in 5th position ahead of Xavi Forés and Alex Lowes. And then the podium finisher, Toprak Razgatlioglu, is in 8th position on 78 points, with Loris Baz in 9th and Jody Torres in 10th. Leon Camier in 11th position after missing Assen and the second race, I believe. No, both races of Aragon. He is in 11th with Lorenzo Savadori in 12th, Michael Ruben Rinaldi in 13th, Leandro Mercado in 14th, Eugene Lavati down in 15th position. Obviously, he missed Thailand, Aragon, Assen, and he was back in Imola. Roman Ramos in 16th, Jake Gagne 17th, PJ Jacobson 18th, Leon Haslam is in 19th position after his 2-point scoring finishes, well 1-point scoring finish in Imola and 1-point scoring finish at Donington Park. Davide Giuliano is in 20th with Yoli Hernandez in 21st, Bradley Ray in 22nd on 3 points, Luke Mossey 23rd with 2 points, and Andre Jezek in 24th position. Now, moving on to World Super Sport, Randy Krummenacher was able to maintain his championship lead after beating the second place in the championship man, Lucas Mahias. It's 81 points for Krummenacher and 79 for Mahias. Sandro Cortese is now in third position, the winner of the British round at Donington. He's on 77 points ahead of Cluzel, who was my bet for the win, but unfortunately missed out. He's on 75. Federico Caricasulo is in fifth position on 69, with Raffaele De Rosa on 51. Seventh position in the championship is Luke Stapleford, who it says on here is on a Yamaha, but I'm pretty sure he is not. He's on a Triumph, and unfortunately it didn't work for him. He was 16th position at Donington Park, with Nicky Tooley in 8th position. He's now left the championship to go over to the Moto2, and Ryan Vickers was on that CIA Honda. Anthony West in 9th position on 27 points, with Thomas Graninger on 22 points in 10th. Loris Cresson in 20th, with Kyle Smith down in 12th position, with Rob Hartog, Ayrton Badavini, Warricorn, Sheridan Moraes, who I believe has gone in to replace the departing Keenan Sofwoglu, Ratapong Willarot in 17th, Akari Akubo unfortunately crashed out this weekend in 18th, with Suma in 19th, Andy Irwin, Jack Kennedy in 21st, Imi Lati, who won the ESS, the European Supersport class in the World Supersport race. He is in 22nd, with Keenan Sofwoglu in 23rd, Wayne Tessels in 24th, Michael Canducci, Chrysart, Morentino, Stefan Hill and Tom Taparis rounding out the top 29 on there. Right, we'll quickly look at the Supersport 300 because it was championship leader Ana Carrasco who started on pole position for the second weekend in a row and got a second win in a row as well. Leads the championship by 22 points over Luca Grunwald on the KTM and Scott DeRue, who made a mistake on the final lap. He went from third, I think it was, to 6th. So, yeah, disaster for Scott DeRue. He obviously made that mistake as well in Imola and crashed out on the last lap. Borja Sanchez in 4th, with Luero in 5th. Cohen Newfalls, I think that is, in 6th position. Van Stralen in 7th. Perez, Ole Janik in 9th. Nick Callan, who unfortunately missed the Donington round after his big crash, rounding out the top 10. Another good race in Supersport 300 and another win for Ana Carrasco. And another win in Stock 1000 for Marcus Reitenberger, who leads the championship now by 10 points over Roberto Tamburini. And Maximilian Scheib in 3rd position, with Federico Sandi in 4th. Vitali in 5th. Marino in 6th position, with Matteo Ferrari, the wild card who won in Imola. He's in 7th position ahead of Riccardo Russo, Gabriel Rui and Luca Savadori even. The other Salvadori rounding out the top 10. So, yeah, that's going to be it for today. Just a little Let's Talk on the Donington Park weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit like and hit subscribe. Let us know what you think about another Yamaha win, the first since 2011 and the first of Michael van der Mark. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you hit like and hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.